What is going on, YouTube? Gabmus here, and welcome to the 35th episode of the Tech Pills live stream. Alright, let's jump right to the first news of today. Xda Developers, the popular forum for smartphone modding, has made a phone. If you're familiar with modding your Android device, you certainly know about Xda Developers. In their forums, you can find the latest and greatest Android custom ROMs for, well, about any smartphone that was ever released. It's been an inside joke for a long time that XDA should make a phone of their own, and they finally did it. This new phone, called the Pro 1X, is the result of a collaboration between XDA and the UK-based FX Technology. This phone is the successor to FX Technology's previous smartphone, simply called the Pro 1, and it's basically the same phone with some tweaks. The first most striking feature is that the sliding physical keyboard that it has, it's a phone released in 2020 with a physical keyboard. I am so excited about this. So again, it slides like the old phones of yore. You probably remember those if you are probably as old as me. But anyway, it's definitely a great option for any terminal nerds like myself. And of course, this makes Vim on a phone usable, and I just love it. And as for the specs, it's got everything in a kitchen sink. The CPU is the Snapdragon 835, equipped with either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, as well as 128 or 256 gigs of internal storage. And it's expandable via microSD, which is great. NFC, dual SIM, stereo speakers, and the elusive headphone jack are also present. Last but not least, this phone also supports display output via the USB-C port, making this phone a perfect candidate for your convergence experiments. And of course, in true open source fashion and spirit, this phone will ship with either Lineage OS, which is an open source Android custom ROM, or, wait for it, Ubuntu Touch, of all things. Did you really think I was going to just talk about yet another Android phone? No, that's not really like what I do here. So this will be effectively another Linux phone in the market. And okay, let's just talk about the price here for a second. It's a little bit steep. It's retailing for $900 US. But if you head over to their Indiegogo campaign, you can grab a discounted version for about $600 US. And of course, needless to say, this is a limited time offer only. This is just for the Indiegogo campaign. So if you're interested, go and check it out and pre-order your discounted version right now. And let's just talk about how we have another Linux phone in the market. I don't know what to expect from this. They mostly in their like marketing material, they're mostly focusing on Lineage OS, and I just want to remind you that Xda Developers is mostly a community based around Android modding. So of course, their main focus is probably on Lineage OS, but they nonetheless they said that they're releasing this phone with support for Ubuntu Touch as well. And this is kind of very well. It's actually very interesting if you ask me. A couple of years ago, we didn't have any phone that could run Linux. Yeah, we had some experiments with what used to be Ubuntu Touch when it was still in the hands of Canonical, and we had some projects like Selfish OS or Postmarket OS that didn't really go too far. At least they never really got to the point of being actually productized to be something that users, that normal customers could just go ahead and buy. And most importantly, they didn't have the same kind of I guess open design as far as installing third-party operating system goes, as like the PinePhone and the Purism Librem 5. So this is kind of a weird change of events, if you ask me. Having like these two competing smartphones in the Linux smartphone space, and mind you, that's still not a thing. I mean, there's no Linux smartphone space yet at this point. We're building it. The community is trying to work on it and build it from the ground up. We have the hardware now, and now it's just a matter of refining the software. But you see another, well, I don't want to say mainstream, because there's still, I mean, it's still a technical minded people community here. We're talking about Xda Developers. I mean, they're still technical, but they're not, as far as I know, too invested into the Linux ecosystem. So it's weird to see them, of all people, release a Linux phone. Of course, the important point here is that the thing about Xda Developers and what they stand for, what their community means, is having the possibility to just mod your phone, to just change the operating system and customize it to your heart's content. And that's what they've been trying to do with XDA since forever. And I mean, even if it's not Android, if you want to run Linux on your smartphone, you should be able to, and there should be no blockers. And I'd go as far to say as it should be supported by the OEM. After all, Android is Linux. It's just a bastardized version of Linux, and this makes it kind of hard to run upstream Linux kernel on a phone. But it's just mostly an artificial limitation given by the fact that manufacturers usually don't care about upstream. They don't care about giving people the support for their software, for whatever they want to run on their systems. And mind you, we're talking about a full computer here. Phones are computers. And what I never understood is why phone companies go out of their way to make sure that people cannot install third-party operating systems on their phones. And of course, some OEMs are worse than others, depending on what you were talking about. For instance, I know that at least historically, Huawei has been very aggressively against running custom OSs on their phones, while other manufacturers the old Google Nexus used to be very easy to mod. As far as Pixels go, I think they're still pretty easy to mod, but not as easy as the Nexus used to be. And Sony also historically has been quite friendly towards the open source community, and I'm not sure what's up with that, but their phones are among the few that support projects like Selfish OS, and they even went as far as selling. Yola went as far as selling Sony Xperia phones with Selfish OS on top of them. Sorry. So it's not really too common to see manufacturers or OEMs care so much about Linux and running Linux on your phone. I'm really happy to say something like this. Maybe this means that there's enough interest for OEMs and people like XDA. The people behind XDA to be interested in bringing something like this to the market. So I don't know. It's a great move from the XDA people. If the price was a little bit lower, or if I had the kind of spending money right now, I would definitely buy this phone. If nothing else, even just to play around with it and see how far I can go with it. And just a note, like a technical note about how Ubuntu Touch is supposed to be running on this phone. Apparently, it's using libhybris, if I remember correctly, which is the way that most Linux for phones distributions out there tend to work on existing Android phones right now. And Hybris is it's kind of a hack, if you ask me. It allows a full traditional Linux operating system to basically be bootstrapped on top of the Android kernel. So it's still not like to the level of the PinePhone or the Librem 5 as far as software support goes, but since they're apparently working on it themselves, the people behind this project, maybe support will be decent. I don't know. What I don't like is that you still have like that Android userland that you have to circumvent and work around to get your operating system on top of this phone. But I guess that's the reality of the market we live in. And I don't know. I'm still waiting for my PinePhone, and I think that if you want to play around with a truly open source friendly Linux phone, you can either go with the PinePhone or the Librem 5. That's just my 2 cents, though. All right, let's move on to the next news of today. YouTube DL has been taken down by the RIAA. This news actually was pretty bad, and it went around the internet, and I saw many people talking about this, and it's definitely something I wanted to touch on. So let's talk about the news first. So the popular command line utility to download videos from many online platforms, including but not limited to YouTube, has seen their GitHub repository taken down following a DMCA request from the RIAA, also known as the Recording Industry Association of America. To my understanding, this request was made because of some popular songs on YouTube being used in the test cases inside the repo. And just a little detail here, apparently those test cases weren't even downloading the full videos. They were just downloading like the first 8 kilobytes. Just to be clear about that. The takedown request states that this tool is basically an instrument for piracy, and of course, GitHub, being a US-based company owned by none other than Microsoft, has happily accepted this request and taken down the repo. Sometime later, the GitHub CEO, Nat Friedman, reached out in the YouTube DL IRC chatroom to invite them to take the repo back online. While I was initially happy to see this, after reading a screenshot of the conversation, I realized that there wasn't too much to be excited about. You see, Nat stated that for the repo to stay up, they'd have to remove the code for the rolling cipher circumvention, along with examples on how to download copyrighted material. And while I can agree with the latter, about the former, this thing about the rolling cipher, the rolling cipher circumvention is a mechanism built into YouTube DL to basically allow you to download videos from YouTube. It's its most important feature. And of course, they're saying that if they want to get the repo back online, they need to remove this feature, which is, from my understanding, again, most of what this project does anyway. If you ask me, this is mostly a half-assed attempt to regain credibility from GitHub's side more than a demonstration of good intention. As of now, YouTube DL has its website still up, and you're still able to download tarballs of their source code from it. And there are some forks, of course, online. I'm not sure if I completely 100% trust them. The commits should still be GPG signed. So if you know how to check for a GPG signature and you find a fork of YouTube DL still online, you can verify that it's genuine very easily. And I'm sure the repo will find, anyway, like the upstream repo will soon find a new home, as no one really needs GitHub in the first place. I mean, Git is really meant to be decentralized and free from the control of a single platform. So this shouldn't be too much of an issue. Still, this gives you some room for thought. So GitHub is a code hosting platform and an open source code hosting platform nonetheless. What is going on here? The Recording Industry Association of America. So an association that has to do with music rights and the recording industry was able to take down an open source project, thanks to, of course, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. This just feels broken to me. This shouldn't be something that can happen. And all for what? Because there was a stupid link in a test case in the repo. It's not even part of the main code for the program. It's just a test case. They probably just copy pasted the URL, whatever, into the test case to make sure that it works across commits and across updates. Of course, there are technical people that understand this and that understand that YouTube DL is not just a tool for piracy. Yes, it can be used for piracy, but so can your browser or your computer. Should we ban, I don't know, Linux distributions because you can use them to torrent music? Maybe? I don't know. You can even do that from Windows or Mac OS or Android or whatever. You don't need Linux or YouTube DL to download, to pirate copyrighted material. So I don't really see the point of this. I don't really see the point of this DMCA takedown. I only see it as a step towards a more aggressive form of censorship. And code censorship, open source code censorship, this is not something like to be taken lightly, in my opinion. This is practically a declaration of war. What's next? They take down repositories for torrent software because it can be used to pirate software. I mean, you can use YouTube DL to download perfectly fine content from YouTube or other websites without any issue. There are licenses that allow you to download YouTube content. And I'll go even as far as to say, if you want to download my videos with using YouTube DL or whatever tool you want, you can do that. I would never go as far as to say that you shouldn't be able to get my content outside of YouTube. And besides, my content is also available in on LBRY. You just go to lbry.tv/. You know what? You just go to lbry.techpills.technology. Let me check if the URL is still correct. Yep, it still works. So again, lbry.techpills.technology. That's the link where you can find all my videos on LBRY, so away from YouTube. If you want to do that, if you want to stay away from YouTube, go ahead and do that. You have my full blessing. Unfortunately, YouTube still represents like the biggest video platform out there, and if I kind of want to be relevant in some shape or form, I need to be on YouTube as of right now. I hope that's not how things will go in the future. At least I hope it doesn't stay like this forever. I kind of got out of out of topic here. What I wanted to say is that some agency or association like the RIAA or they shouldn't be able to take down open source projects. YouTube DL didn't violate any license. They didn't distribute copyrighted content. They are not actively promoting the downloading or the distribution of copyrighted content. They're just putting out there a tool to download videos from video platforms that lack this feature. And yeah, it's a feature that's needed. You need this feature. In a video platform, you want to be able to download the video. And if you cannot do that, that's broken. That's broken by design. And I think that's the motto of boycott DRM or something. There's a movement that says that DRM is defective by design, and I totally agree with that. And I mean, YouTube doesn't even really do DRM. It's more like trying to stop you from downloading videos in an easy way. They don't have a download button, but there are many ways to download videos from YouTube and other places as well. I'm not just throwing shade at YouTube here. This is the fault of many video platforms out there. Anyway, I really hope that YouTube DL, the people behind YouTube DL, find a new home for the project, possibly outside of the USA. Possibly they can self-host it somewhere. They can spin up a GitLab instance or a Git instance or whatever. Anyway, I'm sure that the project is far from being dead. They still have the code. I mean, developers do have clones in their local machines. They are up to date with the latest commits, and they can still keep working on it. And at least until they find a new home, they can still do commits and keep working on the projects. That's the beauty of Git. You don't really need something like GitHub or GitLab or whatever to host your code. You can just have even a server that has an HTTPS link to your to your source code. I guess you don't really need something like GitHub. It's useful because it does issue tracking and helps with merge requests, but there are other tools and there are other ways you can host your code outside of the USA, outside of the jurisdiction of the DMCA and all this mess. Anyway, let's move on to more gleeful news. Ubuntu 20.10 is out. Ubuntu 20.10 Groovy Gorilla has just been released. And this new release comes with the latest version of GNOME 3.38, increasing its adoption, considering that Ubuntu is one of the most popular distros out there. And it also comes with official support for the Raspberry Pi 4, being the first Ubuntu proper release, excluding Ubuntu Mate and possibly other Ubuntu spins, to support the popular Raspberry Pi SBC. Another nice addition is support for Active Directory in the installer. And while this doesn't really matter for most home users out there, I think it's an important addition for enterprise customers and could be the first step in what will possibly become a first-class Active Directory support in the next Ubuntu LTS, making it a suitable choice in an already established company environment. And there are environments where Active Directory is still the norm. I know that there are alternatives, and I don't really have anything going for Active Directory by myself. But if your company uses it or if your university uses it, they do already have a choice. It's not an Ubuntu LTS, so maybe the next LTS will be a better target for this, but they will have definitely companies, universities, and other organizations the choice to use Ubuntu with their existing Active Directory infrastructure. And that's pretty much it. I mean, as far as these Ubuntu 2010 story goes, there's not too much to say. It's very close to the 2004 LTS, and that was a very big release, in my opinion, one of the best Ubuntu versions ever. And they're working on these internal releases, and they're doing like these couple nice additions that are basically paving the road for the next LTS. So let's move on to the next news of today. AMD destroys their competition with their new Big Navi GPUs. So AMD has recently announced their new line of GPUs based on the RDNA 2 architecture, also known in the community as Big Navi. The announcement revealed 3 new GPUs, the Radeon RX 6900 XT, obligatory nice, 6800 XT, and 6800. The amazing thing is that these GPUs already compete with NVIDIA 3000 series, at least according to the internal benchmarks shown during the AMD presentation, while at the same time being more power efficient. All 3 of these cards should also support ray tracing to some degree, although the Kronos group still has to release a proper specification for vendor-neutral ray tracing. And another noteworthy feature is what they're calling Infinity Cache, a technology that should reduce latency in communications between these new GPUs and the upcoming Ryzen 5000 series of CPUs. At this point, there's not too much we know apart from what came out of AMD's mouth, but to be honest, even if those benchmarks are any close to reality, these new GPUs are beasts, and for the first time, they are competing with NVIDIA, and they're competing with NVIDIA's top-tier graphics cards. I think this is a first, at least in my time being into the custom PC ecosystem or whatever. And I'm really excited to see independent benchmarks once these cards come out. And of course, I will be following closely Phoronix, as they're usually the first to get their hands on new hardware and do proper Linux benchmarks. Again, the most important reason why I am so excited about these new GPUs is because of the Linux support. You know that I am a huge AMD fan when it comes to graphics cards, not because they have any allegiance to a company, of course that doesn't make any sense, but because they are because of the fact that their drivers are open source for the most part and built into the Linux kernel. So this for me will always be a good reason to choose AMD over NVIDIA, and I'm happy to finally see proper competition in the GPU space after so long. NVIDIA has had the crown for best highest tier gaming GPUs, and now AMD is back in the game. And let's see where the independent benchmarks will tell us about these new graphics cards. All right, let's jump to the final news of today. So, you know about Java, the Reddit app that I'm working on, and I'm happy to announce that it's now part of the Word group in GNOME's GitLab. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, GNOME has this like internal structure in their GitLab instance where there are third-party projects that are not directly sponsored or affiliated with GNOME, but that are like closer into the GNOME ecosystem and that they kind of endorse in a sort of way. I'm not really sure how to define it better than this. But anyway, Java, again, my Reddit app, the Reddit app that I created using GTK and Python, has been moved into the Word group. And I'm really, really thankful for this. I'm really excited. And I've seen so much support from the community out there. Both old faces and new ones are helping to make this project move forward. And the next step right now is adding support for the Demlies translation platform. Them lies. I'm sure there's an inside joke there, but I'm not aware of it. Them lies is the internationalization or translation platform that GNOME uses, and I have been asked to add support to Jara for this translation platform. So this means that this application will be translated hopefully in multiple languages and will be more accessible to anyone in the world, hopefully. Anyway, this is really an interesting project that I embarked on. I really want to thank everyone that supported me in this journey, from my friends, of course, my girlfriend, and of course the amazing community. And I want to thank you all, guys, for the, if you know about this, you know who you are, for the amazing support that you gave me during the development of this project. And with this final news, I think we're gonna wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. Also, remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.